Last night I had an interview with the Grassroots Resistance Collective here in Texas, and we were talking about something that I didn't realize a lot of people don't know. And so I wanted to share it in case you don't know. There's a term called school to prison pipeline, and it's part of, talking about critical race theory, about racism in America. And so it's, banned in Texas, things like that. But this is a really important concept that everyone should understand, because underfunding public education hurts all of us in society. Education prevents crime. Believe it or not, the studies show that. Pre-K, children who attend high-quality pre-K have a 70% reduction in becoming criminals. It's insane. But I wanted to give an example of what this school to prison pipeline looks like. My kids go to a very well-funded school, the best we could get in Austin, basically. And my oldest, who is now 14, he has severe dyslexia. He was diagnosed in first grade at my request because I'm a former teacher and I recognized it. Now, my son was very naughty in first grade. He had a lot of behavior issues. And those behavior issues were tied to his dyslexia. See, the thing with dyslexia is it's exhausting for children with dyslexia to read. I think it's like they use 600 times the energy as a regular child, something insane like that. And so he would spend all of his energy trying to read and have no energy left over for controlling himself. So he would get into trouble. Now, we went to a well-funded school, and so him getting in trouble meant that the counselor came, took him out of class, and walked him around the track. He got to hang out in the mindfulness room. They did all of these things to support his behavior issues. Now, when he was diagnosed, that changed because now they understood why he was misbehaving in class. And so not only did they address the dyslexia through interventions. Interventions are things that correct something. He was pulled out of class and taken to a specialist at school, a certified academic language therapist who we love. We love her so much. And he went through a program called Take Flight that corrected his dyslexia, more or less. And we had accommodations. Accommodations are things that are legally required to support the child in the classroom. In first grade, that was breaks. When he is exhausted and having trouble controlling himself, he could go sit in the peace corner and just lay down and rest and recover. All of this helped him behaviorally. These things that just look like bad kid behavior were a learning disability that had not been addressed. This is in a well-funded setting with a former teacher as a parent. Okay? Now, consider schools in poverty, schools that are underfunded, because our funding is tied to our zip code. So if you are in a minority community that has been funneled into the poor parts of town for centuries, decades at the least, your schools don't have funding. They probably don't have a certified academic language therapist to provide those interventions. You might not even have a counselor. You also have parents who are facing poverty and they need help. So you might not have a parent support specialist. There are all of these things that schools need because of poverty. And the cycle continues because these impoverished students aren't having their needs addressed because of the lack of funding. And our school is missing funding. I'm at a well-funded school and it's still underfunded. All of the schools in Texas are underfunded by design. But that's another topic. So the school to prison pipeline. You have a kid just like my son who has a mother who works 2 jobs and has never taught and doesn't speak English, doesn't have a college degree. That same kid is not advocated for because she doesn't know any better. And the teachers, maybe they see the problems, but there's no point in referring him to an evaluation because they don't have someone to treat him anyway. So he just goes through school with dyslexia. I heard this statistic from a Republican representative out of San Antonio, John Lujan, I believe his name is, who seems to really care about prisoners, but he votes to underfund education. He told me that 25% of prisoners have undiagnosed dyslexia. And I said, yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Do you know about the school to prison pipeline? And he did not. A man elected to represent his constituents in San Antonio did not understand the correlation between underfunded education and prison and criminality. And I think that's something we should all understand. Investing in students, investing in schools saves us money. It's an investment. It's not a handout. It costs less money in the future. We don't have to pay, and it makes us safe. The cost of safety, for one thing, if we have fewer criminals running around. But if we address these issues and the needs of these students are met in school, they have better behavioral outcomes. And that means that they don't keep getting put on. So the school to prison pipeline is basically, they have these behavior issues just like my son did, only it doesn't get fixed because their learning disabilities aren't diagnosed. Their mental issues aren't addressed. And so they keep getting in trouble, getting suspended. They become the bad kid. They think they're the bad kid. And what's the point? They drop out. They become criminals. That's the gist. And all of it is rooted in poverty. All of it is rooted in underfunded education. And all of it is rooted in racism as well. And so if you don't know that this exists, you should, because it hurts all of us. The Republicans refusing to fund social safety nets, refusing to fund education, hurts all of us. It creates crime. It creates homelessness. It creates mental illness. It creates school shootings. If these students who are mass murderers, if they had had the emotional support they needed through school, through healthcare, perhaps we wouldn't end up with dead bodies. This is a huge issue. That is why I'm a public education advocate, because looking around at all of the issues in America, reading the research, it is abundantly clear that so many of our problems go away when you fund education. That's it. You have people on staff who are experts in their field who can address the needs of children. It'd be great if their parents had living wages as well and they weren't in poverty, but that's another topic. The key is our schools need to be well funded. It is an investment in our future as a country, as a democracy. The more we invest in schools, the higher return we see. And those people who aren't in prison pay taxes. So they will pay for themselves at some point. It's not a handout, and it's not a business. Government is not